All right, tonight we're going to look at something a little bit different way than we have been, but still dealing with prophecy and what's going on in the news. But we're going to look tonight at the otherworldly response that's going to come one of these days. So we know, and we've been talking about what the old serpent is going to do and what he's shaping things up for. But we're also going to talk about the Lion of the tribe of Judah and how he's going to respond to that. We looked for the last couple of weeks to this passage, first verse, Revelation 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ. And then there's that whole book of Revelation, amazing book of Revelation, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants, that's you and I, things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So Bible prophecy, why study it? What's the purpose of it? What value is it? Well, for the believers, when we study about what God says is coming, that should be an encouragement to us. And that's the reason why the book of Revelation was written, to be an encouragement. There are awful, terrible things in it, but the takeaway from the book of Revelation is that God's ultimately in charge. But for unbelievers, it is a fearful thing. And that feeds into what we can do as those who know what's going on. For those who don't know what's going on, we can encourage them in the direction of the Savior. But before we get to that, I just must share a bit of news that's been going on that is worth note. St. Louis prosecutors, that was just this last week, will not charge a man arrested for trying to carjack police officers. So what happened was, these police officers got called to a shooting. When they pulled up, a man came in front of them, pulled a gun, and was going to carjack them, realized it was a police car, and ran off. They captured him. The St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office, that's the prosecuting attorney, says the case is under investigation. Do you recognize this gal? Yeah. St. Louis prosecuting attorney Kim Gardner, funded and installed by George Soros. And he did that all over the country. If we can't keep them from getting arrested, then we'll keep them from being prosecuted. And just like the gal before the Senate committee right now, she's guilty, so the government said these pedophiles should get 10 years maximum. The attorneys, the prosecuting attorney on the cases said, we want 2 years for this guy. She gave him 2 months. 3 months? Oh, well, maybe that's okay then. Yeah. So, and this is by design. It's bringing about chaos on purpose.
I wonder what would happen if that happened to them. Would they prosecute?
But it won't happen to them because they can hire private guards to walk with them and shoot people that try to do things like that.
True.
Like our congressman.
Yeah. Or if it happens to one of their loved ones,
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah. Wisconsin. Do you feel sorry for the people of Wisconsin? I used to. I don't anymore. They're getting what they deserve. A Wisconsin county supervisor who was put in office by people that vote. These people are getting what they deserve. A Wisconsin county supervisor has submitted a proposal to remove the Pledge of Allegiance and the word prayer from county board meetings. Here's what they said to Fox News. This Heidi Hegleitner, she said, I guess that's a she. It just doesn't feel like it's appropriate for us to be doing. When in a pluralistic society, we want to be inclusive and representative. At the end of the day, I think the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer is divisive. So you can cut the sympathy for Wisconsin. They've done it to themselves. Just like California, Elon Musk. I love this story. Elon Musk is being pressured. So Elon Musk is the one who made all the Teslas. He's the Tesla guy. He's smart. A lot of things I like about Elon Musk. I didn't know they could do this, but he is able to turn off just the Teslas in Russia. Now, isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? Until everybody has to have an electric car.
There's probably only 2 of them over there.
And you fundamentalists who are raising domestic terrorist children who won't take the jab and you won't go along. Now, 10 years from now, we're probably all going to have electric vehicles. That's what they're going to push. And with the punch of a button, they'll shut it off and you'll walk. Now, I may be being a bit extreme, but only a bit. So be careful of those things you cheer. Yeah, that's going to be great. The Antichrist is going to be great until he's not. March 1st, 2022. Senate Judicial Committee hearing on nationwide crisis of carjackings. And it is. It is. Carjackings are on the rise across the board. And not just in cities, but everywhere. Now, be careful because you know I'm getting ready to trick you. What the government says they want is a national database of car GPS and other information in the cars. And by the way, my new vehicles, it's astounding the data that's available through the GPS and the internet that's connected. So the law enforcement can share and cross-reference the data and help us all. What could go wrong with this? So they've got a nationwide database they're trying to establish on everybody that has a gun. Right? That's to go after the bad guy, right? Problem is, you're one of the bad guys. So, what could go wrong? The Great Reset, World Economic Forum, they want to digitize everything. We talked and had fun talking about how they want to plug into our brain and they're developing that. But before we get to that, our cars, our homes, everything is going to be connected digitally. It already is. Your electric meter is probably connected digitally already, and they're able to do stuff. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So let's talk about the dragon and the lion a little bit. The in-game strategies for these guys. One's a gentleman and one's not. The dragon, the old serpent. We've talked about this extensively, so I'm not going to spend much time. I'm just going to hit the high spots. He's going to, and we find this in the book of Revelation clearly, a unified world religion. This is Mystery Babylon. A woman rides a beast in the book of Revelation. We know this. We've talked about it. There is also coming a one world government. We talked about that statue in Daniel. The Roman Empire, being that last great empire, is going to be revived in the end days during that tribulation period. And the toes, partly of iron, partly of clay, is indicative of that revived Roman Empire, that one world government. And then the global economic system, buying and selling only if you have the mark of the beast. So that's where he's going. We know that. We've talked a lot about it. That's where that dragon is going. And these are huge sweeping things that are not in place now. And frankly, it looks to me like these things are 10, 20 years on out, easily. In fact, I don't think I could foresee these things coming to pass for at least another 10 or 20 years.
Because Christians are in the way.
Unless you get the Christians out of the way. And then they can do it tomorrow. So, the New World Order. Of course, CNN will tell you that's just conspiracy stuff, right? Let's look at that. This last week. You want to buy some gutter guard? Man, can't even read the articles for the advertisements. Guess they got to make their money. So Biden, there's going to be a new world order. Somebody told me that he whispered this off microphone. No. He said it right up front.
Yesterday or today?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday, but very recently. So President Joe Biden, is that big enough to see? President Joe Biden said Monday there would be a new world order established and led by the United States while speaking at a roundtable to discuss Russia's war on Ukraine and the economy. You know, he said, we are at an inflection point. Now, he's right about what he's getting ready to say. I believe in the world economy, not just the world economy, and I find it interesting he says that, not just the world economy, in the world. It's everything. Occurs every 3 or 4 generations, Biden said. As one of the top military people said to me in a security meeting the other day, 60 million people have died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we've established a liberal world order. And this next phrase is just stupid that he said this, and that hadn't happened in a long time. That never happened. There's never been anything like the last 100 years of a society that, well, anyway. A lot of people died, but nowhere near the chaos. Talking about the ancient world. And that's true. And now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there. We've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the world in doing it, he continued. And then during the meeting, he said a bunch of other blah, blah, blah stuff. Now, let's talk about the lion. How's he going to respond? How's Jesus going to respond to all this? That's the other story in the book of Revelation. I would argue the bigger story. Well, we know about the rapture of the church. We've got chapter 2 and 3. The church is there. 7 letters to 7 churches. Church age. Beginning with chapter 4, John is caught up. That's an interesting way to say it. That's a rapture. John is caught up. The church is caught up. And there he sees the throne room of God, and all the church is no longer mentioned in the book of Revelation. The bride of Christ is not mentioned again until the marriage comes. Now that's doctrinally significant. And that, of course, is going to then bring on huge possibilities for the Antichrist. So then we'll launch right into, after the worship time of chapter 4 and 5, especially chapter 5, chapter 6 begins the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And if we have the time tonight, we're going to finish with those verses. That's kind of where we started out with this study. So and this is more amazing than most people realize. The next thing that happens is there are going to be 12,000 Jewish evangelists from the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000. They're Messianic Jews. Right? Jews don't accept their Messiah today. They're looking for their Messiah. The Messianic Jews believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And there are going to be 144,000 of them called out during the tribulation, at the near the beginning of the tribulation. 144,000 Jews that are going to be worldwide evangelists for the Lamb, the Lion. That's an astounding number of people. I would argue that's a huge revival. So while all the bad things are going to begin to happen during the tribulation, there's going to be 144,000 Jews get saved and get so on fire that many of them are going to be martyred. And then, of course, the rest of the book, we've got the judgments. And one of these days we'll do a whole study just on the judgments in the book of Revelation. But the most picturesque one is where it talks about how these angels take these bowls. Now, you know what a bowl is. You put your cereal in it. A bowl. Take a bowl that's filled with the wrath of God. And they pour those out upon the earth. Now, I don't know what that'll look like. I don't want to know what that's going to look like. What would it be if he really got angry? You know, how bad could Mike Tyson hurt you if he wanted to? What if you really pushed his button and pushed him over the edge? How bad could he hurt you if he got really mad? Well, multiply that 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times. One of these days, God's going to let that angel pour his wrath out on the world. One of these days, we'll do a study of that. So what's the holdup? Well, let me tell you about some things that are going on and then what's in the way. So Klaus Schwab, he's the guy with the Economic Forum, World Economic Forum. He's heading up one of the main instigators of the Great Reset. And these guys are out of the shadows. They're right out there talking about it. Biden being one of them. He said, we have to, as the United States, lead the world to this. Here's what he said. Klaus Schwab. I have to say then, I mentioned names like Miss Merkel, German Chancellor, and Vladimir Putin. That's kind of interesting. Got to get even more interesting before I get done. And so on. They all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. They graduated from that school that he did. But what we're really proud of, pay attention. Here's what Schwab says he's really proud of. Now, I'm really proud with the young generation like Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on. What he's really proud of is that they have penetrated the cabinets. Do you wonder what's driving Biden when he can't put two thoughts together exclusively? What's driving him? They have control of the cabinet. This is your head of the military and on and on and on. The cabinet. This is what he's proud of. They have infiltrated the cabinet of all these different countries. And here's just a few of them. I showed you a few a couple of weeks ago, but the Crown Prince Victoria of Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, the ambassador to the United States from Saudi Arabia, and then Jacinda Ardern. And you ought to boo whenever I say that name. She is a wicked, evil queen of New Zealand. Search it out. You have no idea how wicked she is. Emmanuel Macron, France. And then we've got Argentina. He mentioned getting into the cabinet, the Minister of Finance in Argentina. And Leonardo DiCaprio. Larry Page, founder of Google. Mark Zuckerberg and old Pete. He's right in there. And here's this guy. This is an anomaly. Putin is a graduate of his school, right along with all the rest of them. Vladimir Putin, 1975 graduate. I don't know what he graduated from, but he went to the Economic Forum School. But when you go to their webpage as of yesterday, this is what you get when you look for Putin at the World Economic Forum. You can just erase somebody with the flip of a switch, so to speak. Isn't that interesting? The whole world's against Russia, right? Russia's the evil ones. Yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah, they are. But the deep state runs far deeper than Russia or the Congress of the United States. Far deeper. So there's a book written by Matt Palumbo. Man Behind the Curtain, Inside the Secret Network of George Soros. If you don't know who George Soros is, I told you about the prosecuting attorney in St. Louis that he installed. And he's done that all over America. This guy's a guy of money and influence. So in this book, here's just one page. You need to listen to this. Internationally, George Soros arguably boasts more influence in Ukraine than he does in any other country. George Soros says, of all the countries I influence, no place like Ukraine. The Russian language Ukrainian newspaper Vesti, publishes a list of the most influential 100 people in the country at the end of every year, choosing Soros in 2019 as second to only President Zelensky. The Prime Minister took third place after Soros. Through the organizations financed by him, Soros can influence economic and political life in all Ukraine. The Kyiv-based paper notes. And they're not being hyperbolic, the book says. Soros's influence in Ukraine kicked off in 1989, 2 years before the collapse of the USSR. So here's a guy that moves, even back in the day, among communist countries and the free world. He created a series of non-government organizations, NGOs, non-government organizations. The most notable of them was in April of 1990 when the International Renaissance Foundation, the IRF, a part of the Open Society Foundations. Would you love to be a part of that? I mean, just that, it beckons to you to want to be a part. The Open Society Foundation International Network was established in Kyiv, Ukraine, was still a struggling part of the Soviet Union at the time. Soros's influence would only grow in 1991 onwards when the country became fully independent. The IRF, that non-government agency, was disconnected from reality and worked only with, and what he's saying here is they had no connection to the Ukrainian people. They were completely out of touch with them. So detractors went on and explained that these influencers, Soros, were influencing economics and politics, and they were completely out of touch with the Ukrainian people. Sound like any place else you know? Anybody? Bueller? America? Where the common grassroots people are and our so-called leaders? Been going on in Ukraine too. So let's scratch it a bit deeper, this thing of Ukraine and George Soros. So here's the headline in The Hill. You can go look this up for yourself. The headline in The Hill, John Solomon wrote this, it's too small for you to see, back in 2019. U.S. Embassy pressed Ukraine to drop probe of George Soros Group during the 2016 election. Now, who was elected in 2016? Anybody? Guy named Trump? Oh, I got ahead of myself. Let's look at that. I hate to take the time, but we really need to see this. Go away. Maybe you can kind of see that. You can go look at it for yourself. It's worth reading the whole thing. No, later. While the 2016 presidential race was raging in America, Ukrainian prosecutors ran into some unexpected strong headwinds as they pursued an investigation into the activities of this George Soros group. This group, ANTAC, an acronym, whose youthful street activists, I apologize for that word on their t-shirts, was part of a larger probe into Ukraine's prosecutor general's office into whether $4.4 million to fight corruption. We gave them $4.4 million to fight corruption inside the former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, to see whether it was improperly diverted. The prosecutors soon would learn the resistance they faced was blowing directly from the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv. Now, who was president? Let's see, who was that guy? Oh, yeah, Obama. Obama pressured Ukraine prosecutor to drop the probe into Soros. Soros is getting this St. Louis prosecutor installed and spending money doing all that and fighting against Trump, trying to get Hillary in there. Okay, I'd like to go on. You ought to get this article and read it for yourself. 1990. Soros acknowledged in an interview with CNN that he actively contributed to the overthrow so the guy that was president just previous was Yanukovych, that'd be the way you'd say it, in 2014. the United States government through our ambassador and George Soros' organization staged a coup. And we overthrew the government and got this guy out. And who ultimately became the president? Zelensky. I created a foundation in Ukraine before it became independent from Russia. The foundation has functioned since then and has played an important role in current events. Guy's bragging about it. Okay. This is going to be contrary to anything you're going to see in the news. And if you know me, you know I hate conspiracy theories more than anything in the world. What I'm getting ready to tell you is the truth. Vladimir Zelensky. Here he is in 2020 speaking to the World Economic Forum. Now, pictures are worth 1,000 words, but now remember, Trump spoke at the World Economic Forum when he was president as well. And they hated everything he said. If they had guns, they'd have shot him for what he was saying. But anyway, Zelensky is one of them. He's on the inside. He's one of them. I wish I had the time to go into it, but you can go look this up for yourself and chase it down. Let me tell you about Zelensky. Two things are true at the same time. On the one hand, this guy has backbone. He knows how to play the media. He has gotten his whole nation to fight. He has gotten the whole world to cancel Russia. Nothing like that's ever happened. Nothing like that's ever happened in the world. This is a worldwide cancel. And Zelensky, as far as I'm concerned, he's got the backbone and he gets credit for it. It's astounding what he did. But now I want you to think about what he's done. Remember in the early days of the war, he said, all Ukrainians will fight the Russians who come to the death. And we saw then pictures of them crating up Molotov cocktails that they had made. Remember, see those things? What he did was he gave a green light to Russia to shoot any man, woman, or child in Ukraine. He made every one of them a combatant. Now, we all cheered it when he did it, but I kind of shivered because I thought, man, now he can kill anybody he wants to. And he will. He was going to do that anyway, right? I mean, he's evil. He's going to do that anyway. That's how Russia fights their war. They just kill everything. But Zelensky gave them a green light. Let me tell you about this guy. He was an actor before he was president. And as an actor, I think he was more than the actor. I think he actually helped make this show that became very popular in Ukraine. He was playing the part of a president of Ukraine that was rooting out corruption. Only to become president on the platform that he was going to root out corruption. I mean, I don't even know what to call that. Ironic, I guess, but it's beyond that. Let me take it a step further for this guy. I probably shouldn't tell you this. And you're going to say, this is Russian conspiracy theory stuff. No, I checked it out. I saw the video, which still doesn't mean anything anymore, does it? He was a comedian, like 20 years old before he was president, before he was an actor, and before he was president. As a comedian, one of the routines that he did that he thought was so funny was he and another guy stood behind a piano. All you can see is the piano and them from here up, and they're playing the piano with their penis. That's just so funny. Right? Okay, we could chalk that up to a 20-year-old. 20-year-olds are idiots. They don't know anything. I was an idiot when I was 20. They don't know anything. Okay? I'm just telling you things aren't the way they appear sometimes. This guy is all up into the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. So, the anomaly of Vladimir Putin, he's one of them too. How can this be playing out the way that it is? Well, again, this is, I think, some irony. One of the communists' statements about the people that they would get revved up in a country to go against them, useful idiots. What the West did, you can argue with this politically and think whatever you want to, the West kept NATOizing Ukraine, kept NATOizing them. Back last fall, they had a big hoopla over there about the possibility that Ukraine would come into NATO. NATO exists to oppose Putin. He's right on the border. I mean, you're poking the bear in the eye. Now, whether we should, I don't know. I'm not an expert on politics. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just saying, we poked the bear, and the useful idiot bear leapt. I believe they're throwing Putin under the bus, so to speak, a useful idiot for that. Because this world war that's coming, and I don't know that it's going to play out to be nuclear, but this is a worldwide war already. And this is going to move us one big step closer, just like the C-19 did, toward control and power. Our president, we just read, we've got to lead. We've got to lead and bring the world into this thing. So you're the problem. You're the reason why they can't just do this tomorrow. We've got things like elections and freedom. You know, as I said, that's why Trump had to go. He was the most anti-globalist, anti-reset, if you will, of any president we've ever had. It was predetermined. He was going to go. Making a difference whether we had to rig an election or whatever. And he went. So, you're the only thing standing in the way. Are you going to knock it off? I think we need to turn the pressure up. We may go out, but let's go out with both six guns blazing. For any liberals that will be watching this in the future, you're welcome. So events are moving on a worldwide scale like nothing in my lifetime. I don't think anything and I don't think there's anything in the history of the world, unless you go all the way back to the fallen angels doing what they did, and the Tower of Babel and Nimrod doing what he did. This is world scale like nothing I've ever seen. What's going on? We're living in epic times. The worldwide pandemic is set up for World War III, is ripening the world for somebody. And did you see that? So, I don't know who it was. I wouldn't give you credit if it was. Some American songwriter wrote a song making Zelensky the hero, and he kind of is. I'm on board with that. He kind of is. But the song is, "Can one man save the world?" Now, if that doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies, there's something broke inside you. Revelation 6 and verse 1. Let's go to Revelation chapter 6 and verse 1. And I want to see that. This is kind of where we started out with this whole study a couple of years ago. I want you to think about what's going on in the world and the four horsemen of the apocalypse now. Now remember, they're only going to be launched after the church is gone. So this is just after the church is gone. But we're going to see these things ramp up as we get toward it. Okay? We talked last week, and it's even all the more evidence of it. Ukraine was a major exporter of wheat. Russia is an exporter of wheat and fertilizer. Now, and I told you last week, there's not going to be a worldwide famine happen this next year. probably. But what we're going to see is there's going to be shortages, and those will have implications and ramifications. That would be worth thinking about, but I just want you to think. There's going to be hunger, and you and I'll probably be fine, but places in Africa, places that are poor, not so fine. So, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Here's where we're headed, Revelation 6:1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, when one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, no arrow, a bow, and a crown was given unto him. Can one man save the world? And he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereupon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. If you were going to imagine out in the future what a great sword that could be used to kill millions would be, any guesses? Anybody? Bueller? Lasers, atomic bombs, all the stuff on the cutting edge. We're getting better at this atomic bomb stuff, though we can blow up a city the size of Independence and not kill all of Kansas City. Okay. Yes, come and see. It's going to be something. Verse 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." That's a fascinating verse. There's going to be worldwide famine, but the rich people are going to protect the oil and the wine. That's, of course, symbolic of iPhones and Teslas and I don't know what. Verse 7, when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed him. By the way, a pale horse, there in the Greek, pale, is the same color that you see on every Arab flag, green. Now, I don't know what that means, but that's kind of interesting. Well, so let's carry on and read a bit more. And the fifth seal was opened. I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell upon the earth?" And that dwell on the earth, that's a phrase, that's a catchphrase for the wicked on the earth that will take the mark of the beast, they that dwell upon the earth. And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So then that takes us into the 144,000. There's going to be this huge revival along with all these awful things. And the testimony of Jesus is going to go worldwide. And many of them are going to be killed and martyred for the preaching of the gospel. And then things are going to get real bad. Like they haven't so far. Things are going to get real bad. So it's 8 o'clock. We'll have to stop there.